Humans are rational animals, or so many would have us believe. Yet during the pandemic, decisions by individuals, institutions, and governments are rarely driven by the data. Do you know the relative risk of taking a vaccine or not taking it? Or will you just wait to see what others, experts, and celebrities do? Are you aware that the risk of dying from alcohol and tobacco-related diseases in 2020, some 8.5 million people last year, was actually 5 times the risk of dying from COVID-19, which only racked up 1.6 million deaths? So, do we all need to wise up and get more rational about our decisions and the risks we do or don't face? Or are humans evolved to make social and emotional decisions relying on the value and importance of crowd responses? And more fundamentally, which is the best strategy for survival, emotion or reason? And tonight we're very lucky to be joined by 3 wonderful speakers who I will introduce to you now. First up, we have Paul Bloom, who is the Brooks and Suzanne Reagan Professor of Psychology and Cognitive Science at Yale University. He's known for his research on how humans learn to understand the world. He's authored 5 books, including his newest book, Against Empathy, The Case for Rational Compassion, published in 2016. Next up, we have Patty Kostkova, who is a professor in digital health and the director of the UCL Institute for Risk and Disaster Reduction Center for Digital Public Health in Emergencies, which is quite a mouthful. During the COVID-19 crisis, Patty has been working with and advising the WHO on digital strategy while working with her team on a gamified app to monitor compliance with stay-at-home policies. And last but absolutely by no means least, we have Dan Ariely, who is the James B. Duke Professor of Psychology and Behavioral Economics at Duke University, who is known for writing on irrationality. His books include 3 New York Times bestsellers, Predictably Irrational, The Upside of Irrationality, and The Honest Truth About Dishonesty. So, without any further ado, I'd like to proceed inviting you all to basically giving me your 3-minute pitches on the following subject, right? So, Paul, do we need to wise up and get more rational about our decisions?
Thank you. My friend Dan Ariely, as you said, writes bestsellers with the word irrationality in the title. And he makes the point over and over again that we're often bad at being rational. And I think he's exactly right. I think, in fact, at some level, he has to be right. We're animals, we're not angels, and our brains have evolved for a world very different from this one. And so when our Stone Age minds get confronted with a global pandemic affecting billions of people, we can do poorly. So as one example, we're really bad at risk assessment. We use a heuristic where the salience of an event is a cue to how probable it is. And so we radically overestimate odds of low frequency events like mass shootings and shark attacks, and radically underestimate the probability of highly frequent but more mundane events like heart attacks or strokes or deaths by alcohol. As another example, and this is part of what I wrote my book about, our moral decisions are strongly biased by emotions, sometimes leading us astray. So there's all sorts of laboratory studies showing that we don't like to deal with trade-offs when it comes to being good, to helping others. And we actually distrust people who make such trade-offs. And this is a serious problem, particularly now, given that any intelligent approach to lockdown, school closures, quarantines, vaccination, has to involve a complex balance between cost and benefit. So if the question is, do we need to wise up and get more rational about our decision? The answer is absolutely. At the same time, I think we overstate how stupid we are. I think we're a lot more rational than we give ourselves credit for. And I'll make 3 quick points about this. First, 2020 has been an enormous success story for the paradigmatic example of human rationality, which is the practice of science. If there are still any skeptics in the world about whether science captures truths about objective reality, I'd be quite happy if you'd hand me over your vaccine when it's your turn to get it, because I personally am very low down the queue. Second, we have goals other than truth. So in the middle of the summer last year in the United States, there were large rallies for Donald Trump. And many people, including many epidemiologists, said these are going to cause many deaths due to infections, grossly irresponsible. 3 weeks later, there were much larger rallies for Black Lives Matter. And many of the same people, including many epidemiologists, were either silent about it or said, it's fine, don't worry about it. Now, this might look like irrationality, but it better reflects the fact that people have multiple goals. We have social and moral goals. Most of the experts, at least in the States, have liberal politics, and they thought the Black Lives Matter rallies were just, and the Trump rallies were not. And this is what dictated their response. Similarly, we shouldn't take people who reject these experts and necessarily say they're being stupid. Maybe they just recognize that these experts might have different priorities than their own. Finally, I agree, we're sometimes irrational, ruled by our hearts and not our heads, but we can also step back and deliberate over how well we're doing and try to get better at it. And this is a tremendously powerful form of rationality, and it's exactly what we're going to do now.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Paul. I mean, yes, Patty, what do you think? Do we need to wise up and get more rational about our decisions? What are your thoughts?
Thank you so much. This is exciting questions because it is kind of worded in a way we should wise up and become more rational in order to live our lives more intelligently. And I think the question isn't posed correctly. I think we are rational and emotional animals. We are a mixture of humans determined by, obviously, our knowledge, what we know, our attitudes, and also the emotional and spiritual component of our beings is often neglected, but it is very important when key decisions are being made. And obviously, the most glaring example for someone from the UK is the vote of Brexit. It was by no means a rational vote. It was entirely an emotional vote where people were projecting their ideas, their beliefs, their values, their satisfaction, dissatisfaction into, on a paper, simple looking question. But in reality, the complexity of it wasn't absolutely not rationally grasped. The rational evidence was absolutely clear what's going to happen post January 2021. It was an emotional decision. So how do we take it from there? I think we need to better understand what we as the humans are. How do we change our behavior, taking into consideration the cognitive component, the rational knowledge part of our beings, but also the attitudes and the emotions. And I will just give you an example from one of our research projects a few years ago. We developed a website informing public about antibiotic resistance. One of the major global problems we all should wise up about and do something about combating antimicrobial resistance. And this website was aimed at general public. And from the evaluations, we were assessing not just the behavior, what they would actually do when people get ill, just the knowledge and attitudes towards antibiotics. And in our research, we have discovered that only 25% of the people who improved their knowledge after using our website as an intervention actually changed their attitudes towards prescribing the right way. They would expect not to be prescribed antibiotics for basic coughs and colds, basically. So the right relationship between attitude and knowledge was only achieved in 25% of people. The rest of the people sometimes improve their knowledge and decrease their attitude towards prescribing the wrong way. They would expect even more prescriptions, even though they actually answered logical questions correctly after the intervention better than before the intervention. So it clearly illustrates how emotions and how attitudes are linked to our knowledge, but not directly, not linearly. And if you look at the standard behavior change theory using the COMBI, so bringing together our capabilities to do some decisions, which is skills or knowledge, our opportunity, we need to be given opportunity to actually do something, such as take a vaccination, but also the motivation. And I think the motivations in the COMBI is, I think, the most important to answer your questions. What are our motivations? What drives us and how we change the motivations of us as human beings or us as a society, sort of trying to steer the decisions towards more rational and decisions towards our personal well-being, but also our global good.
Interesting. Okay. Well, wow. Thanks for that intro, Patty, to your position as well. Dan, it's your turn to tell us whether or not we do need to wise up and get more rational about our decisions.
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below, or visit iai.tv for more debates and talks from the world's leading thinkers on today's
decision apparatus. So Patty, I don't know you very well, but Paul I know for many years, and I love the guy. Now, that's an emotional thing. I see him and I smile, and we had an opportunity to talk. We haven't caught up for a while.